Conspiracies, and more specifically conspiracy theories, are a strange thing. They're the idea that some small cabal is plotting against you, secretly and always, and that you have pieced together a hidden, awful truth. Evidence for such claims is mostly optional. A hunch or a benign observation, bolstered with motivated reasoning, is usually enough to get conspiracy theories up and running. Though invariably weak in their evidence, if there's any in the first place, the conspiracies themselves vary in their scale and implications, ranging from relatively benign to actually concerning and dangerous. While conspiracy theories often take on a political flavor, they aren't solely confined to this sphere. There exist a number of conspiracies in the realm of science and medicine. Political conspiracies have certainly led to public harm and damage, but these medical conspiracies are arguably of greater concern as they serve to undermine society's general health and welfare. The broader anti-vax movement is the most well-known of these conspiracies, but it certainly isn't the only one. There currently exists a growing alternative medicine movement, appealing in large part to the conspiratorially minded. Though many alternative medicines are about as good as a sugar pill, a number of these conspiratorially hawked treatments pose a genuine threat to personal and societal health, like vitamin B17. Vitamin B17 is an alternative medicine often touted as a preventative, palliative, even a cure to cancer. Those who consume this vitamin B17, either artificially as a supplement or naturally in foods like apricot kernels, can expect tumors to shrink and cancers to remit, at least according to those selling them. The purported health benefits of vitamin B17 are significant. An effective treatment to cancer would be truly marvelous, but how do these claims actually shake out? To best discuss the effects and uses of vitamin B17, it's worth covering what a vitamin even is. Quite simply put, vitamins are any class of compound the body needs to function, yet can't naturally produce. Their presence in the body keeps you healthy, their absence leads to disease. The name itself comes from a portmanteau of vital amine, based off one of the first vitamins discovered and described, thiamine. Vitamins now refer to around 13 different molecules or classes of molecules which ensure proper function of much of your body. They need to be consumed in some small quantity if you don't want to get sick and die. With that in mind, let's turn towards vitamin B17 and the first issue surrounding it, the fact it isn't even a vitamin. Whereas compounds like ascorbic acid are necessary for proper bodily function and are thus awarded the vitamin label, a deficiency in vitamin B17 doesn't lead to any negative health effects, either in the short or long term. The actual compound referred to as vitamin B17, laetrile, is fairly benign. Strictly speaking, laetrile itself has no effect on the body. This compound is not inert, however, and is quickly broken down by the body into glucose, benzaldehyde, and hydrogen cyanide. The last chemical listed here should raise eyebrows and evinces the second issue with B17. It's poison. Hydrogen cyanide is one of the most toxic substances known to man. In low doses, it leads to shortness of breath and dizziness. At high doses, cardiac arrest and death. The bodily hydrolyzation of laetrile unavoidably produces meaningful quantities of cyanide. Laetrile is cyanide, laetrile is poison. Not much else can be said, it's the simple biochemistry of it all. With that in mind, why is laetrile, apricot kernels, and all manner of vitamin B17 even seen as medicinal? This is Ernst T. Krebs, an inveterate charlatan and con artist who is arguably the father of vitamin B17. A self-styled doctor, despite failing out of university and getting his doctorate from a degree mill, Krebs worked with his father, also a con artist, to hawk various miracle cures throughout their lives, mainly cancer cures. In the late 1940s, the two developed a new remedy from amygdalin, a compound that had previously, though unsuccessfully, been used to treat cancer. Amygdalin is commonly found in almonds and the pits of drupes, think cherries and peaches, and the Krebses would extract the substance from apricot kernels, then modify it into this new laetrile. The two would market laetrile to doctors in California by the 50s, asserting this new drug would preferentially hydrolyze in tumors and lead to their destruction. This trophoblastic theory of cancer is unfounded in this day and age, but proved plausible against the then less mature field of cancer treatment. The Krebses would see modest success with laetrile. The medicine would find its way throughout the US and even abroad. All this was done with minimal oversight. The FDA in the 50s was smaller in scope and less empowered in their duties. Plus, they had more pressing pharmaceutical concerns at this time. The most you would see in terms of regulation was from the California Cancer Commission, which found laetrile had no anti-tumor effect in mice upon testing. These studies were of no influence on Krebs and the doctors utilizing laetrile, however, as they were done by actual cancer specialists and not subscribers of his unfounded trophoblastic theory. The Krebses would continue promoting and profiting handsomely from laetrile into the 60s, but the start of the decade would be an inflection point for the duo and their treatment. Health and regulatory concerns surrounding the tragedy of thalidomide led to the Kefauver-Harris Law in 1962, which significantly bolstered the scope and authority of the FDA. Conversely, the following year, a number of news articles and books, such as Laetrile Control for Cancer, would promote laetrile to the public as the next big thing in cancer treatment, making such lofty claims as laetrile will be to cancer what insulin is to diabetes. The media firestorm of a highly promising drug against the backdrop of regulatory crackdowns captured the public conscience, and the 60s into the 70s would see the height of laetrile's advocacy and controversy. As both state and federal governments limited, if not banned, the distribution of laetrile, and research consistently failed to demonstrate its miraculous effects, laetrile's most ardent supporters only dug in deeper. The research couldn't be trusted. It was performed by disbelievers in trophoblastic theory. These regulations were not earnest efforts to suppress an ineffective drug, but the work of malicious authorities and Big Brother. In spite of their protestations, laetrile the medicine would be dealt a crippling blow in 1979, as the Supreme Court upheld the FDA's regulation of laetrile in interstate commerce. However, it was only a crippling blow, not a death blow. No self-respecting doctor would prescribe laetrile, if they could even get their hands on it, but this supposed cancer treatment would yet persist. Laetrile the medicine was indeed dead, but in its place was laetrile the vitamin, vitamin B17. The vitamin angle for laetrile had been in the works for some time by the 80s. Krebs first described it as a vitamin in 1963, and by the 70s would claim that cancer was merely caused by a deficiency in this vitamin B17. This framing of laetrile as a vitamin wasn't due to any biochemical discoveries or renewed understanding of the compound, but a shrewd means of repackaging their snake oil. Throughout the 70s, there was an increased focus on general health and well-being. The supplementation of vitamins and minerals was seen as an avenue towards health. Presenting laetrile as a vitamin helped tap into this growing trend, but aided in a more practical sense as well. While laetrile was essentially banned as medicine, it was next to impossible to regulate as a supplement. This is due, unfortunately, to pretty extreme limitations on the FDA's ability to regulate the supplement industry. The 1976 Proxmire Amendment, named after the senator who sponsored it, would impose the first limitation on the FDA's ability to regulate supplements. Prior to its passage, vitamins and minerals had to be prescribed by a doctor. You can just go to the store and grab fish oil or Flintstones chewables. Upon the passage of the Proxmire Amendment, however, you no longer needed a prescription for vitamins. And the FDA also couldn't regulate their contents. The amendment essentially gave birth to the modern supplement industry. You could just sell vitamins and minerals, make them as potent or impotent as you wanted, and the FDA couldn't do much to stop you. The FDA would be further neutered in its regulatory abilities with the passage of 1994's Dietary Supplement Health Education Act, or DSHEA. DSHEA essentially lets supplement manufacturers make whatever claims they want for their products. They can be as ridiculous or unfounded as possible, so long as they label them as not approved by the FDA. The FDA cannot proactively regulate these supplements either. The most they can do is reactively target their manufacturers if they're shown to be harmful, and even then, that program is underfunded. In short, if you want to sell snake oil in the US, you will face very little resistance, and thanks to this, laetrile as vitamin B17 has seen enduring success. For decades now, charlatans have consistently been able to present B17 as some cancer cure, only ever facing pushback when they get too big and have undoubtedly poisoned thousands in the process. Vitamin B17, when you really think about it, is in a pretty choice spot. Though illegal, enforcement against the sale and manufacture of B17 is incredibly limited. Its peddlers operate on the fringes with nigh impunity. Disinformation surrounding B17 propagates wildly on social media. Storefronts sell it with minimal oversight and are adorned with comments on its anti-cancer properties. In spite of this, B17's most ardent supporters are convinced that because it isn't known and taken the world over, its relative obscurity is the product of conspiracy. Given the fact B17 advocates necessarily think the drug can treat cancer, there is the belief that researchers and scientists have deliberately suppressed the truth about laetrile. This belief is based in part due to past disagreements between researchers working at the Sloan Kettering Institute, a then leading cancer center. In the mid-70s, researcher Kanematsu Sugiura found that amygdalin, i.e. laetrile, would prevent metastasis of cancer in mice, though it notably did not affect the underlying primary tumors. Sugiura was a well-respected researcher at SKI. He was confident in his findings, and hoped that they would be replicated in further studies. However, other researchers at Sloan Kettering were unable to replicate said findings, and laetrile research both at SKI and in general showed that it was ineffective at treating cancer. Though something of an internal outlier, Sugiura's findings would be leaked to the press, igniting a firestorm of controversy at Sloan Kettering due to a perceived cover-up. Since then, however, the research surrounding laetrile and B17 has only bolstered the medical consensus towards them, that being, they don't work. Nevertheless, this old story of institutions suppressing groundbreaking research is such a tantalizing tale that it muddies the discussion of B17 even to today. The people who fully bought into B17 myopically focus on a 50-year-old scientific controversy, then ignore the remaining corpus of research on their wonder drug. It's disappointing. An adjacent conspiracy, and one you see with many supposed miracle cures, is of Big Pharma suppressing the truth of their treatment. Now, I have not one iota of respect for the broader pharmaceutical industry. Medicine is a human right, and their profiteering off the ills of man is despicable. With that being said, they don't have to suppress a cancer cure that doesn't cure cancer. There's just no basis for them to assail laetrile and B17. Despite this, conspiracy theorists believe B17 would be a huge threat to the cancer industry's profits, and that Big Pharma has worked with the FDA to ban and suppress the drug. Conspiracies of this flavor tap into the very real issue of corporate influence. They appeal to those rightly skeptical of massive industries and their interest in government. It adds a thin veneer of plausibility to the B17 thesis, but can't change its core of junk science and disproven theories. Now, while the idea that laetrile is some groundbreaking medicine being suppressed by the man is laughable, it's worth emphasizing these conspiracies have legitimate consequences. The people who buy into and purchase B17 are those who genuinely want to safeguard themselves against cancer, if not inhibit what cancer they currently incubate. On pages discussing or selling B17 supplements, advocates frequently mention the worrying doses of B17 they consume. The amount of cyanide they're ingesting is sure to have significant consequences, both in the short and long term. In line with this, such review pages are peppered with tales of those who fell extremely ill due to cyanide poisoning. By virtue of their unregulated nature, B17 products can vary wildly in their contents. Doses that may be manageable to some are debilitating to others, and proper labeling of these significant risks is seldom seen. Furthermore, those who partake in B17 may develop an undue, totalizing faith in this unfounded cure, and in turn forgo the flawed yet modestly effective cancer treatments thus developed. While those who peddle B17 are at best ignorant and at worst malicious, those who partake in and consume the product are ultimately victims. While their efforts to safeguard against cancer are perfectly understandable, admirable even, with B17, they'll only worsen their chances. Vitamin B17 is a scam, another variant of snake oil with superlative promises and significant consequences. It's a genuine problem, one I hope has been thoroughly demonstrated. And with that in mind, how can it be addressed? The first, and I feel most obvious fix, would be actually empowering the FDA to, well, do its job. The limitations imposed on the FDA to proactively regulate the supplement industry is the reason these treatments are even available, and said limitations need to be largely removed. While I don't necessarily want a world without supplements, I myself take multivitamins and fish oil, the industry has been allowed to operate, scam, and potentially harm countless Americans for decades now. Unfortunately, due to this period of minimal oversight, the supplement industry has become gargantuan and influential. Part of the reason actual regulations haven't been placed in their products is due to their significant lobbying efforts. There's also the simple reality that the particulars of the FDA and the limited consequences of taking most supplements do not rise to any major level of public concern. Given the manifest health implications of giving B17 and other harmful supplements free rein, however, I think they should be. Now, while such regulatory efforts are valuable from an end consumer perspective, there will still remain the misinformation and conspiracy theorizing around B17. So long as there's some ingrained, unfounded belief in its efficacy, people will still promote and disseminate misinformation regarding B17. To that end, means of cracking down on this unambiguous misinformation should be pursued, along with penalties for those promoting B17 with clear financial incentive. On a final note, fake medicines like B17 propagate in the absence of real medicine. History is littered with bizarre, ineffective treatments for then incurable conditions, and B17 is just another example. Having an actual cure to cancer, aside from being truly miraculous, would make such quack remedies irrelevant. If anything, the damage caused by such fake treatments should serve as an even greater motivation to pursue an actual cure. Vitamin B17, laetrile, apricot pits, whatever you want to call it, is a strange and sad phenomenon. It's an alternative medicine born of conmen and nurtured on conspiracy. Its only real effect on the body is cyanide poisoning. Hopefully we can acknowledge the harm and larger threat B17 poses, collectively grow a brain, and work to ensure no one desperate enough to feel the need for such treatments ever has to be poisoned again. Hey, thanks for reaching the end, and I hope you enjoyed this vid. As someone with a background in chemistry, seeing the simple and extreme danger posed by B17, coupled with people's dogged efforts to misinterpret, if not ignore the science surrounding it, was worrying more than anything. The supplement industry is often seen as benign, and this has allowed its tentacular, poisonous influence to fly under the radar. It's something I'll likely cover in the near future, so stay tuned for that. With that, spine break the like, have dinner with a subscribe button, and that bell. Until next time, take care.